So we turn the lights to different lights.
Oh, they're beautiful lights. Hey, guys.
Lights are there.
We did it. The holidays are over. Was this...
What a hug.
What is it? Was it insane for you? Were you working all the holidays for your synagogue?
No, I didn't. Simchat Torah, I didn't roll and scroll or anything. So there was one I didn't do.
For Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, though. Oh, by the way, I'm David. This is Leo. Hi, everyone. Were you working behind the scenes, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur?
Yeah. And taking phone calls when sort of like something didn't work. All of a sudden, we're going. When does your service start? About 4 minutes. Okay, right. Okay, we'll try and see if we can fix whatever that is in 4 minutes. And in most cases, we got it going. So, I was going to say, I was about to say something and then I stopped myself. And then I thought, well, I might as well say, in production, it's quite often that you get to the end of production and you say nobody dies. But then it's sort of, I'm just thinking about Yom Kippur and thinking about writing in maybe it's not the right thing to say.
Not a good metaphor necessarily.
It's too late. We can't retract that, even though I should have.
Yeah. Yom Kippur puts the tech in perspective a little bit. It does.
It does.
You know what I found myself? For a few years now, I haven't had to lead services myself because I'm not a congregational rabbi anymore.
Yeah.
So this year I was behind and I was producing the services. So I was switching and I was calling the service and all of that. And I actually found myself thinking quite a bit, is what I'm doing davening? Is it praying? And I think I actually decided that it was. I think I decided that the work that I was doing could have a spiritual aspect to it. I mean, what's interesting is that I actually had to pay more attention to the service than I ever have before as a tech person, because I had to know exactly where we were, what slides to put up, what liturgy should be on the screen, what camera to go to. So I had to focus like I've never focused before. And I think I decided that, this kind of work, it can be really meaningful and spiritual for me. Have you ever?
I think it's. I do think the services go faster.
Yeah, they do.
And I tell you, since in quotes working or being this heavily involved in, particularly in Yom Kippur, you don't get hungry.
No.
Because
you're right. You're so focused.
So many other things. You're so focused, and I guess that probably for clergy, it's probably a very similar feeling. Because you are so many things to focus on, so much to pack in, so much that that for many this is their one time of the year when they see you. They probably think you don't do much else the rest of the year.
Right.
Right. But the amount I think I said it on our last show, or the show before, the amount of effort I watch that clergy put into delivering meaningful services in a completely different way and in the way that they've done it for many years. It's just amazing. I think it's just absolutely amazing. And it's something that me as a Jew in the pew sometimes don't really take into account how much work, when I was, what I used to do is sit there and count the number of pages we had left and all of the things that everybody else has done. Sure. Sitting there going, how long does it take per page? Can I work out the average per page? Right. Can we have faster ones and things like that? But it is amazing. And what's also amazing, I think, is the difference and the opportunity that we've gone through. So I think it's great. It's great.
Yeah, your there was a post on Facebook the other day from your Rabbi Leah, and I wonder if I could find it. But she reposted the what do you call it? The Torah Scroll, right? Scrolling through the Torah.
Yeah.
And it reminded me, and then I was doing a show earlier today actually, and it was We were also kind of reflecting, reviewing on the high holidays.
My headphones tangled up here, so
Are you having trouble there?
I just got back and I couldn't get my one pair working. I couldn't get another pair working, but that's it. I'm sorted. Yeah, so she reposted her thing.
But so she reposted that, but here's what it made me think of. I wonder if I can find it here. You know what? I'm on the wrong page. It reminded me that this past year and doing services with these digital tools allows us to also give people a different experience. I think you've said it before that, you know, the idea that people would be able to see the Torah up close and personal is something really powerful. I think that most people don't have the experience of seeing. This is one scene from the synagogue where I'm at. This is the rabbi and the cantor here. They are not next to each other. These are two cameras that are getting shots of them. You can see the line down the middle, but you know, there are things like this, close-ups of the clergy, being able to bring people in from home who are participating, showing videos ahead of time, watching the Torah Scroll. There are opportunities that we've had this past year that we haven't had in other years, and it's all because of the technology that we're using. And I'm saying this because of this, that what you just said about the amount of work that goes into putting these services together, it worries me that clergy and the rest of us think that we should just put this amount of energy into high holiday services. It worries me that we're putting a ton of energy into the high holiday services and we're forgetting about all of the other experiences that we have throughout the year.
Yeah, and I think it worries me in reverse, that I think that some people sit there, and I think I may have shared this with you before, but I saw a comment from one rabbi, and it's like literally the day after Yom Kippur, he gets an email that sort of says, well, it's really good Yom Kippur, really good High Holy Days. Now, can we turn to my daughter's bar mitzvah?
Yeah.
He's like, hold on a minute. It's like,
yeah.
that bar mitzvah can just hold on a minute. It's like, we're not just here for that. We also have to have a bit of downtime.
Yeah, I guess I worry.
But it was in 3 weeks' time, so there you go.
Yeah. By the way, just a quick hello to John Preto and all of our friends in After Hours, who apparently some of whom are watching us. Good to see you here. Here's what I'm saying, though. I think that it's easy for us to fall into the technological trap of there's the Super Bowl and then there's the rest of the games. And I get it. I mean, I get that more people are watching on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur than other days. I get that we want to up our the value that we offer, the production that we offer. I worry, though, that if we don't bring that same production level, or at least the same energy to get good production, both for the on-site and the online people, that we're not going to none of what we do, none of what we're trying to do on the high holidays will translate into anything meaningful, because people will know, oh, if I want the big show, right, I just come to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. If I want the crappy experience, then I can show up on a Friday night. We need to be giving consistently high quality experiences, and so there are probably a lot. I don't know. I'd be curious to know if you know of any synagogues that hired companies. I mean, my synagogue here, they hired people to come in and kind of work the service, run the service. They're not going to do that any other day of the year.
So in the UK, I am not aware of anybody. There was, for last year, there were 5781. There were a number that went down that approach, but since then, the majority that are actually doing their live streaming or doing theirs in Zoom, Zoomagogging or whatever you want to call it, have the majority are taken in house. Now that's been really good with some, and it's been less so with others. Now, that doesn't mean to say the effort isn't there. It's just, I think you touched on it earlier, David. It's about the broadcasting sort of levels and the standards people are trying to achieve. And one of the things which I don't know if you caught it, the Metropolitan University of Manchester, and the reason I was in Manchester yesterday, published a paper called British Ritual Innovation Under COVID-19. And it's written by Joshua Edelman and Alana Vincent, Paulina Carlotta, and Eleanor O'Keefe. And they did a study of many religions in the UK and how their ritual innovation has changed during this period. What have they done? And it's quite interesting because there are some religions that the change is very difficult, or it's very difficult to deliver what was a meaningful service and how they work in that way. And a classic example here is you can say, in Islam, in Muslims, the way Muslim prayer happens, it is really hard. It's a personal thing. So really bringing it online doesn't quite work. However, wow, did those guys innovate in terms of other things that they did. They absolutely knocked it out of the park in so many ways. They were just brilliant, and there's lots of innovation that went around there. Other faiths were having some other challenges. Other faiths were finding it really interactive. So in what they call class in the UK as the black majority churches, the black majority churches were able to they took what they were doing anyway, adopted it, brought it online, and they've been doing it for a long time in the UK, and I'm sure it's very similar in the US. And they are delivering great interactive services. We sat sort of in the middle, and there was two studies that were done about Judaism. One which I did, which is in the report, which covers how I've seen synagogues change and how synagogues evolved and some of the opportunities. And one of which was the Sukkah Hop that happened last weekend, which we could talk about. The other one, which I thought was an amazing, is really worth reading about, is two Orthodox women-only singing groups. What they've done is they've created women-only singing services and other things. And the study contained the fact that where this came about, the women involved, because of COVID and the layouts of their relevant synagogues, they were always in the top, but the top, they opened all the windows. They couldn't stand at the front of the balconies. They had to be at the back. They literally couldn't see anything. So they went from not as involved, but we're not here to discuss that, to really excluded. And it was like,
wow.
So they set up two of them set up a women-only groups, and you'll have to read it. They said the bit that I thought a takeaway was a lot of the women like the fact that the mute button. They like the mute button that they can if they're not great at singing and they haven't sung for a long time, or they know they can mute and sing along and not ruin there. And then some of them said that when they do go back to in-person services, they wonder if they can mute a few hazans as well. So it was quite funny.
That's great.
Quite funny.
That's
but
great.
It's worth looking, because we're all on a journey at the same time. We've just got different needs and different ways to deliver it.
Absolutely. I just want to show everyone, this is the I wonder if I can make this, is there a way to make this full screen? There we go. So this is the Torah scrolling that Rabbi Leah did. It's just a video, right, of her scrolling through the entire Torah, so everyone can see everything, right?
Yeah, and she did it. She shot it. If that is the same one, she shot it on her iPhone, making sure she didn't drop the Torah at the same time. That would have made I don't know how long Yom Kippur lasts if you do it if you did it then.
Right.
But no, she did it. She rolled it through, and you'll see. For me, there's certain parts that you see either at either end or when we get through to things like the Ten Commandments. You're going to see the differences that most people don't, unless your bar mitzvah, your bar or bat mitzvah portion fall on those portions. You never see it.
What's powerful to me though about this is, I mean, because anybody can upload a video of the Torah, but for me, what's really powerful and exciting is the idea of having a Torah cam when you're actually reading the Torah in the sanctuary, so that people can actually see what you're reading. That when it's used in live production.
If you look there now, we're going there.
Right. There's the Az Yashir. It's the Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea.
Yeah, it's just lovely how you see the different elements of this as you go through, which you don't normally see.
I want to hear about your Sukkah Hop. Before we do, can I just ask you a question? Have you ever heard of Altar Live? So I
haven't heard of Altar Live.
So I just discovered this the other day. I don't really understand it yet. It seems to me like I'm trying to get it to start again. It seems to me that this is yet another events platform, and there are many of them, but this one is meant specifically for churches, for synagogues. So you come into the event, you take a seat, and then there's a main, I guess, stage or production here, but you also can see other people over here on the left-hand side. You can actually chat with them while the main service is going on without interrupting the service. And then they also have this lobby feature, which I think is really cute, where they have tables, or my video isn't coming up here because I didn't enable it, but they have tables and they have rooms. It's a really interesting platform because it merges, I think, the best of Zoom, which is more frontal, and some of those other platforms that are not really ready for prime time yet, that allow for engagement and discussion amongst people. I don't know. I wasn't sure if you'd seen it before. I think it's a really interesting platform.
I think one of the things that, again, going back to that survey that was really the innovation under COVID survey, that they came back is on Church of England. So that's our main Anglican churches in the UK. They did a survey. In some of the questions were, did you find the services and the rituals engaging online? So for the majority of religions that answered this, so they had both clergy or service leaders and members of the congregation answering it. In most cases, they were about the same. So they would, if a particular religion thought they were engaging, both sides thought this. In the Anglican Church, the service leaders thought they were terribly engaging. Their congregation thought they weren't. And it was like, what's happening here?
There's a disconnect.
There's a complete and utter disconnect. And also what was another point is that when they rated and they compared streaming against Zooming, it was exactly the same at the time. And then when I started questioning this, and others did as well, the production values of the Zooming were really low. And actually, although they were very engaging at the beginning, they're dropping off and dropping off and dropping off. Because when the production levels drop off, eventually people go, well, I sort of like it, but I can't, hear it. I can't see it as well. And that is, it's finding those levels that's going to be interesting. And if this platform helps in that engagement, which I think is always the element that we're going to suffer from.
Is that a Zoom
Online,
problem? That when you say
no, I
people were
think,
dropping, is that a problem with Zoom
yeah,
or?
I think people want and naturally need engagement. That's a fair sort of thing that people want engage. They strive for engagement. That's what we do. You could argue that one of the reasons that people go and spend time at their synagogue for services, yes, it's spiritual connection, but to many, what happens at the end, or what happens to be able to sit down with the clergy, is just as important. In fact, to many throughout the ages, clergy sit there somewhere, somewhere between a psychiatrist and a
Right.
best friend, don't they? And that's something that I think a lot have missed in this period of time.
But
And it's
what you were talking about the drop off in production,
yeah.
on Zoom, is that because of Zoom? Is that because of how we're using Zoom? What's the difference in production value that you'd get that we can offer on Zoom
So
versus another platform?
I think the reality, and you only have to look at what we're doing here, David, is that a lot of people who will use a production platform like this typically will have reasonable production levels, or the quality of the cameras and the quality of the setup. On Zoom allows, fair enough, it allows for a much lower barrier to get in, which is quite useful. It's quite useful that you can actually connect onto a Zoom call with virtually no or very minimal technology. But after a while, when you really can't hear people and you're struggling, and I think the one thing that I think really that's my bugbear at the moment is, if you saw me in that big screen, great, you can see a big lot of me. Whether you want to see a big lot of me is up to up to the person watching, but that's irrelevant. I sit there and I see a huge amount of somebody. Then we get to an important part like a bar or bat mitzvah, and they decide to put the liturgy up on the screen, and the person you want to see ends up as a tiddly little picture
Yeah.
at the top corner. And you're, hold on a minute, all the relatives are there, everybody's there to, you know, getting ready, and all you can see is this
Right.
little tiny corner. I just want to ban pressing screen share and
Yeah.
say there are better and easier. Well, they're not easier. They're not easier, but there are other ways of doing it, and there are ways that you can do it, which, given the choice and given time, can improve what you're actually seeing. And I think that's the bit that is the critical element that I think people have to learn how to do.
Yeah.
He says,
Actually,
he says, as I've just been out, and I'm just setting my camera up so I can show you something in a second. But
oh,
yes,
okay. Yeah,
yeah,
no, say go away. So I don't know if you heard. I don't think you were there, but in office hours the other day, they were talking about the update to Keynote. That Keynote just rolled out a
yeah,
really impressive update. I'm actually going to throw a video. If anyone's interested, I'm going to throw a video up about it on Tuesday. How you can now have live video in your Keynote slide deck. So
yeah,
hypothetically, you could screen share, but set up your slide in such a way that your webcam is the live video in your PowerPoint, so that your bat mitzvah or your bar mitzvah kid still stays center stage. So there are lots of other ways to do that, using vMix or OBS or Ecamm or any of those.
yeah.
But for those who aren't interested in that sort of production broadcast side of things, and you're just using Keynote, now you can do that, which is kind of amazing to have a live
Yeah.
video object right in Keynote.
And that's where we need to go. And
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen. And the other thing that the Muslim representatives said in the comments of, where are we going, how are we going back, where are we this, they said, we're really glad everything's gone back to how it was pre-pandemic, because their services have gone back. And as I mentioned earlier, because of their way of ritual delivery, which is individual prayer in a room, but it's effectively mainly individual. Um, it is back to how it was because it needed to go back because that's how it works. For other religions, they're not. There is the opportunity, and for some people in Judaism, there is this opportunity to say, well, actually, we're doing some really good things that we're going to keep. And I think that's going to be, if we're going to keep them, you're going to have to also up that level of sophistication or the level of technology that sits with it. So you asked me earlier about the Sukkah Hop, and I was going to show you,
yes.
hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to see a little bit of the Sukkah Hop. And if I'm really even good, I can even show a little bit of me in the corner as I was talking about before. So you should be able to see me and sit in that corner. Okay, so we went around the world on this year's Sukkah Hop, and I have to thank the partners that are involved in this, which is the United Synagogues in UK, the Commonwealth Council, Commonwealth Synagogues. I can't think of all the names; it's all gone off my head. But it was a bit late now. But it was a great event, and we started off, and I'll just show you that. I'll show you a couple of bits which I thought were really I really liked. So we started here, and this is our opening to the event.
We can't hear it. Are you? Did you?
No, I'm not playing the music.
Did you produce this? Is this your
Yeah,
thing?
we produced this. I don't know if I can actually play you the music. It'll be too difficult. But we span around the world, and just to give you an idea of where we went, we went to from London all the way, as you can see, we jumped off from London all the way around to I can't think, Jamaica. You can tell I've been up for a long day today. Jamaica, and then we went all around the world with different people from different countries, bringing in there, from Kenya, other countries in Africa.
Was this all done live? Were these people all live?
Quite a lot of it was live. Some of it was recorded elements. So Uganda, Tanzania. We're visiting sukkahs around the world, and so this is Tanzania, and then they were interrupted with Uganda, who suddenly popped in. And I find it fascinating when you see this and you see all of these other countries, and I don't know why. I suppose it's that Ashka normative of me that sits there and thinks, I didn't know we had all of these Jews all around the world.
Yeah.
I just didn't, and you see this, and this, we went to all the countries, a lot of the countries that you can imagine. This was hilarious. This is Rabbi Levi Wolf on Sydney on Bondi Beach. We ended up having to subtitle him because if anybody's ever been to Bondi Beach, all it is lots of waves and lots of sound of wind, and we couldn't hear a thing. But it was an interesting visit. And then we ended up eventually in your country as well, where we went to New York, and we went above you into Toronto and into Canada, and then we went to New York, and then finally ended up in LA right at the end. So
how was this done? Was this all via Zoom? How was this put together?
No. So this is all in a platform called Streamyard, but it allowed us to do some really nice layouts like we're doing in here, where you're using Ecamm.
Gotcha.
Allowed us to bring people in. At one point, we had 12 people in the back end as we jumped between countries.
Wow.
And it's very engaging. It's a different way of doing things. Maybe it isn't what you would do for every service. I think that would be too much. As you said earlier, David, when you're trying to find different things, you need to find different things in here.
Right. There's something, this moment in time, or not this, I have to stop saying that because this isn't a moment, it's a transition. It's a point of inflection. This point of inflection has reminded me that there are times when we can feel more distant than ever because I can't physically be near other people. And because of the technologies that we have available to us, I'm closer to you than ever. I'd never heard of Leo Mindel before all this started. I knew nobody in the UK. I didn't know anybody. And now I know people in Australia. I know people in the UK. I've seen pictures of Jews in Uganda, live, not just pictures, live video of people in Uganda celebrating Sukkot. And there's something just really tremendously, it makes the world a little smaller, these technologies that we have.
I think you've hit the nail on the head with that. It's very much the blessing that has come out of what we've got is that you realize that there are, I think the first time I saw this was when we did last year's Sukkah Hop, and one of the countries we went to is India, and I don't know why. It's just as I said, the Ashkenormativeness of myself. I didn't realize there was a huge Jewish population in India. Why? Sure. It never ever occurred to me. It just didn't, Yeah. And there they are, and you're sitting there listening to them praying, and you're thinking, I know those words. I know what they're saying. Maybe it's a different tune, but But then they'll have a different tune to a Donald done Bollywood style. I guess it must be out there. I'm sure. It's been done. Well, it must have been done.
I'm sure it was.
And it's it is pretty special to be able to break those barriers down. And as you say, this opportunity, these things are opening the opportunities, and I'm hopeful. That's also one of the things I've seen with a lot of synagogues. There are synagogues who are suddenly going, well, we don't know. We want somebody else to come in to do the to come in this week. Our rabbis need to take a break. We need somebody else to come in for a week. So rather than just finding the guy from down the road, let's find somebody from a completely different country.
Unbelievable.
See how that service sounds like, and you're like, whoa, that's just really interesting.
Okay, so that leads me to my next thought, question, which is, what do you think comes next? Right? What do you think is the next step that we as communities of faith, it doesn't have to be Jewish, but and I'm thinking specifically around technology, obviously, right? What is the next technological step that we need to or could take to use this to our advantage and to...
Well, there are very, very few times when technology jumps really fast. It's normally just incremental, isn't it? We look at what last week Apple came out with their iPhone 13. It's 13 times that they've said that this is the best ever phone that they've ever produced.
The best phone, the fastest phone, the smartest. Yes, of course.
But the reality is that it's an incremental change in most cases, and there are jumps in there, but it's incremental change. So what do I actually think is going to change? I think that we're going to see that some of the practices that we've done over the last few years, particularly in this last 18 months, are going to become embedded in the traditions of where we are going. I'm one. Okay, there's one that I personally want.
Okay, this is Leo's wish list.
Leo's wish list of what I want to see higher up on the list of orders of things, personally, is Havdalah. I love Havdalah, but it's that one thing that just it never quite made it into the top 10 in a lot of cases. It's just there. And it's something that you do at home rather than you do there. But when it's done in such a way, it's just such a beautiful service. It's such a beautiful thing. And in liberal Judaism, in a lot of cases, when we go away for the weekends or this, that, and the other, it's always thrown to the youth to do,
Yeah.
which is fair enough. But I don't think it gives it its like importance, and I think it is massively. To me, I think when you see it done beautifully and done well, and I'm hopeful that that's going to have that we're going to see more of it. And I was really super impressed, I must say, in some of the more orthodox environments, because they could do it after Shabbat went out, so they didn't
Right.
have the restrictions, and they did it in a way, and I was like, well done, you've really, so I just hope that that's going to continue, because I think there's quite a few things in there that come up nicely. And there's it to me, it's coming back to that kind of question we were asking about, that connection and how these things are going to come together. What do you, from your perspective, David, what are you hoping you're going to see come out of this? What do you want to see in your
I I guess for me it's a hope that, and I did this at the beginning of I talked about this moment. I guess it's a hope that we stop thinking about this as a moment that's going to pass. Certainly, the pandemic should pass, should get the hell out of here. No one would argue with that. What we've learned during this time, though, about what it means to connect, what it means to inspire, and what tools can help us do that. I hope that we don't see that as part of what we hope will just sort of dissipate in the future. And let me just double down on that and say that some of the most important lessons that I've learned personally about my own practice over the past year have come from technology, but they've had nothing to do with technology. And that is to say that what I've learned on office hours, we hear all the time that presentations have always been boring. And that, slide decks have always been boring, and that the reason we all went to conferences, the reason we all listened to keynotes is because of the connections that we could make at the water cooler and coffee. And I think that translating that into my world, services have kind of always been boring. And when all you have is the liturgy, when all you have is the service, that does not translate very well without really thinking deeply about how am I going to engage the people I'm praying with? How am I going to inspire the people I'm praying with? And that's I'm not diminishing the power, the intrinsic power of Torah and liturgy. I mean, my goodness, that's my entire life. But it's much more about how we as leaders use those tools in our practice. And I don't know that we've all been using them as well as we could. And these past 2 years, and the technologies that I don't want to say forced because I embrace them, that I've embraced have taught me new ways of sharing Torah, have taught me new ways of engaging and building community. And so one of my hopes is that we don't see this as a moment. And my second hope is that we take some of what we've learned out of Zoom, out of YouTube, and put it into practice in our sanctuaries.
So if going back to the survey, because I mentioned this in the report in there, but there was actually a very interesting poll that was done on the Dreaming Up Facebook group, which was how long were your High Holy Day services?
Yeah.
And at the time when I read it, it was just after Rosh Hashanah, so it was taking into account that. And really, Yom Kippur is very different because there's a set day in it. But Rosh Hashanah services, particularly the morning service, how long is your morning service on there? and roughly a third of the people who responded said that their service has become significantly shorter than they used to be. Now, that doesn't mean, you're always going to get different views and different things. Roughly a third, if you look at it, would say that their services were shorter. Now, we don't, as I said before, nothing changes at most times. Things don't change at breakneck speed. We don't suddenly go from one thing to another. But why are those changing? And when you read some of what some of the clergy are saying, it's like, we want to engage over this period of time. We actually want this to be meaningful, and we've just got to get the bits that are right. Now, I know I am pushing on things where there's going to be a lot of people saying, no, to do this right, you do this, 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 and this, and this, and you need to have a 4-hour service. Okay. Maybe that's the case. I'm not trying to sit here and have that battle. What I am sitting here saying is that people are like everything else that's sitting around us, and we are not immune to what happens around us. We've gone from really long, I don't know if there's ever going to be a super 4-hour feature film ever again. We're getting down and down. These things are reducing in size. They're condensing in their length, but probably they are both, but they're actually getting stronger in their content. So in other words, it may be a shorter period of time, but you're packing more content and you're packing more variety into that content. So you're actually making it into, you could argue, you're making a super rich version of what you had before. And that's going to be the interesting thing. Are people going to say, well, actually, I'm getting more value out of it because it's actually more meaningful, because it's actually maybe shorter, but it actually is the bits that really didn't need to be there, or and I realized that everything I've just said there can be pulled apart very easily.
No. Have you ever heard of Seth? I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Seth God. Yeah, Godin. So I don't know where I've been, but I just discovered him on YouTube. And I've been watching a few of his videos, and I was watching one yesterday about how to get your ideas to spread. And he was talking about, he was talking from a marketing perspective about this idea that we have to get our product or our idea out to everyone. And he mentioned how about attention spans, right? And how we have to get it in smaller and smaller bits to people because they're like squirrels, right? They don't have to. And then he said something to the effect of, we're not selling to squirrels. We're selling to human beings. Let's stop minimizing the capacities of our audiences. And so my first thought, as you were saying that, was it's not about how long the service or the experience is. It's about the quality of the service or the experience. Having said that, and having sat through many long services, it is also about the length. I do think there's 3.5, 4-hour services to me are a little crazy.
I'm not sure. I think we've sort of touched on this subject before, but we haven't really touched on it lots, which is the West Wing.
Oh.
So I'm sort of a big fan of the West Wing. In fact, actually, I think we have talked about it, but I'm a big fan of the West Wing. And one of the reasons I'm a big fan of the West Wing is effectively they condense into what was then a 48-minute show or somewhere in there, the amount of content that would normally fit into 2 shows.
Yeah.
They talk about it. I've listened many times. I used to listen to the podcast, and Joshua Molina used to talk about this. They would get to the table read, which is where they go through the stuff. And in a typical thing, it would be this thick. And then the West Wing, the table read is going to be that much. And they've got to rattle through it. Now, you could sit there and argue that, well, there's so much it's flowing out the sides and nobody does it. But you can watch it 3 or 4 times and you pick up something else every single time.
Something new every time. I've watched that entire every season multiple times. I agree with you.
Yeah. And it means that when you are aiming for that, when you are aiming to make everything both condensed in terms of time, but also condensed in what you pack in. And here I also take my hat off to the many gifted cantors who, just to me, they weave a service and they create the music done well. It just expands everything that's in a service, you know, and I think that's an incredible talent. And we are so gifted with some really wonderful cantors, and it just adds to that level, and it's just an amazing thing. And I think when you do that, you suddenly go, people are walking out without sitting there going, well, I spent, looking at my watch, I've got to spend 2 hours and 45 minutes into this. They go, well, I spent an hour, but I got
2 hours worth of
content.
It's interesting to think.
That's where I see it.
It's interesting to think about what makes a long experience, a movie or something like that. What makes that work? I think why are we able to sit there for 2 hours? I think there's a story that's being told. We're relating to the characters, the people that are up there. There's movement to it. When you talk about the West Wing, what do they call it? The walking dialogue. There's a name for what they
walk and talk.
Walk and talk. Right. Thank you. Yeah. There's
I only went to see the podcast recording 3 times. 3 nights.
Oh, you saw it live? That's cool.
I went London twice, Dublin, and I had tickets for LA. Actually, I had tickets for LA, which if I had actually gone, I don't think I could have ever got back. Because
oh my goodness, it was right around the pandemic. Yeah,
it was right around the pandemic.
Wow.
So anyway, there you go.
That the movement, the story, the humanity. I get embarrassed. I just finished watching. It's an old show now, Chicago Med. I love medical shows because I'm a doctor wannabe, and what keeps me hooked is that I feel connected to the people. I get it. They're just characters, but there's a connection that's made there. I can empathize with them. And again, I can only speak from my own experience as a rabbi. When I'm up on that bima in my white robe, distanced and holier than all of the people in the sanctuary, I don't see how anyone can empathize with me. And so again, there's the close-up shot that's available to us when we're using cameras and streaming, allows us to be a little closer to one another. And again, taking some of what we learned into just the on-site practice, not just the online practice, we as clergy letting down our guard a little bit, acknowledging that we don't know everything. We can't know everything. We can't do everything. We need help. We're human. And there's something really beautiful about letting that shine through so that people who are with us can relate to us and through us.
And I think that's it. And maybe that release that's been because you had to do something different. And maybe the break in normality has both shown what was good and also hopefully what parts of the normality, if that was the right word, will come back that we will miss. And I think that's gonna, we're gonna come out of it the other side and go, well, that bit we really missed, and that bit, we just did it because there was pages 18 to 22 were in the book and they've been there forever and nobody's really, would keep it in there. I don't know. I know that this isn't the story that everybody's going to go down, because a lot of people will say, no, we want to go exactly back to how it was.
Right.
And I've got a lot of sympathy for that. And I think there's a lot of really strong reasons and things for that. I think also there's a lot of strong reasons and others that will say, well, that doesn't necessarily, translate to being that there was only ever one way. In fact, you know, a well-trodden joke, isn't it? That we can have as many opinions as we like, and that's part of our religion, and try it different ways. And when all we get told if we're wrong is we're a super bad Jew, not that we ever get thrown out. So to me, I think that there's opportunities here. There's things that we will find. I think I'm hopeful that the Sukkah Hop and it's whatever comes afterwards will continue, because actually, being able to see and visit other countries gives you far more perspective about the meaning of Sukkah and the fact that we're all living under a leaky roof.
We're all wanderers.
Meeting your neighbors who are all moaning about the fact that, well, in Florida, this thing comes, well, you do know about rain in Florida, actually. That's not fair. Yeah, you know about rain.
It rained every day of Sukkot except for Shmini Atzeret here. Every single day. Didn't get to eat in the sukkah once.
No. Yeah, I guess that's the difference. When it rains there, it really just like someone just pours on the watering can, don't they? Heavy. So yeah. But it's great. It's I think that is thinking of it. Those are the things that I want to see continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that exposure.
Any new tools or toys that you have that you've been playing with that you want to recommend that people should check out?
Yeah, well, the thing that I love, and I think I may have mentioned this to you before, Elgato, the company that do all of the live streaming equipment, and I'm going to try carefully in doing this.
Oh, mine's coming tomorrow. Mine's scheduled for delivery tomorrow. That was going to be what I was going to say.
The Elgato low profile arm. And why is it important? Because when they started coming out with arms for microphones, they always came over the top, because that was fine, because arms over the top it didn't matter where the arm appeared. But for this one, the nice thing about it being underslung is it means that I'm wearing a black shirt. I'm actually on the same microphone that David.
Yeah.
We're both using the same microphone. But I'm wearing a black shirt and a black microphone. And, well, yeah, you can see it if I put my hands there. But really, it's in frame, but it's not in frame, if you know. Yeah, it's not taking the primary view. Although some people would probably argue that if it was a bit higher and covered the whole of my face, it would be a better.
It would be a better thing. Have you found these magnetic tops on here? For the wire cable. I've heard that those are a pain in the ass. Is that true?
No, they're great. They're great.
Oh, really? I've heard that they're constantly popping off.
Not for me. The clever trick is that you can hide your Allen key in one of them as well. So you can hide things in there. It's quite useful. But
that's great.
That's a great. If you're, I mean, like everything, we're continually evolving, and I think that's one thing. The other thing that's nice about it, it's about I don't know what it is in the US. In the UK, it was £100. So I assume it's about $100. Yeah.
Yep. $99.99, which is one of the cheapest underslung mic arms that I've ever seen. It's funny. Mine's please God is showing up tomorrow. I'm really excited about it. One of the things, we were doing a review of our services here, and one of the things I actually mentioned to my cantor is that they have these goosenecks that come right up, and it just dawned on me, and I never thought of it before, how ugly they are. And that I wish that we could get something just a little lower profile. This wouldn't be appropriate for a bimah necessarily, but although it certainly could be, depending on your amud, depending on your table. But the aesthetics, I think we could do better on that, at least in my synagogue. So,
well, this is we've just actually got new lecterns, new bimah on our bimah. At the synagogue I go to, the Ark, and it's one of those things that evolves, and and you talk about it earlier, suddenly you're needing to hide things underneath, or you're needing to use it for a different thing, and it, we will move and we will make I know when we put the cameras in, the first time we put the cameras in and you walked in, all you could see in your head was the cameras. You couldn't see anything else. It's just they're just like they're burning a hole in your eyes. Yeah. And then 4 weeks time, you don't notice they're there anymore, and these things merge, and you look at things, and we will evolve, and how we look and how these things are always changing. I think one of the hardest things about the High Holy Days, and I found quite difficult, is because everything's in white. The color balance of all the cameras are really struggling.
Oh, how funny!
Because you just because there's no the references have all gone, because it's like that's it. So
and who color balances their cameras in synagogue? I certainly don't.
Yeah. So it's again as things we just move forward. I think look at liturgy, look at prayer books, look at the quality of prayer books printed 50 years ago. Look at the quality and the illustration and the detail on the typography on a modern prayer book.
Yeah. Now, the font type itself is...
The font types, exactly. Yeah. Can you argue that detracts? I don't know. I like it, the ones where they've actually put on where they show you how far you are through the service, and they've got the various different chapters that are shown on the margins, so you know where you are, so it's easy to find things. And they put the Hebrew on one side, the transliteration on the other, and the English there, and they lay these out so you can see them, rather than the original ones that we had in Reform and Liberal in the UK, Liberal in particular, where the transliteration was at the back. So you were forever flipping.
You weren't even on the right page. Yeah.
No. So you always had in a corner, it would say, well, go to page 98 or 918. So you'd flip through. And of course, the problem with that is that means that the transliteration and the Hebrew aren't on the same page, which means you're not actually it's all very well somebody can do that, but they're not actually learning and they're not following the service. And also, there's probably quite a few people who didn't want to be seeing that they're flipping to to that. So now, I don't know, how are your in your conservative prayer book that your synagogue now is what prayer books?
Synagogue. So now I'm at a Reform synagogue.
Yeah, your Reform one.
Yeah, and I don't know if I actually have a Reform prayer book handy. But the new ones are beautiful. We started using the brand new Reform High Holiday Prayer Book, and it's beautiful. And there's, as you said, there's a ton of not just aesthetically, but there's a ton of new content in there that makes the whole experience.
Which one is that one written by?
It's by the CCAR, I believe, the Central Conference of American. No, it's not.
Oh,
no, it's not. It's by. Reform.
These are questions we should have planned in advance.
The new Reform Machzor. It's by reformjudaism.org. Let's see. It's
is that Dahlia? Is it Dahlia Marks? This one. No.
I'm not sure. Rabbi Edwin Goldberg is the
so Dahlia's writing a new one that she's doing with the gender pronouns all changed.
Ooh.
Some of this is really interesting.
Really?
Really interesting. Yeah. So
what's her name? Dahlia what?
Work. Dahlia Marks.
Is she a rabbi?
Rabbi Dahlia Marks. Yeah.
Oh, she's a rabbi PhD from Hebrew Union College. Interesting.
Yeah. So she's
she's at Open Siddur.
Yeah.
I didn't know she was at Open Siddur. Yes. For those of you who don't know, the Open Siddur project is a really nice resource. Sorry, go ahead.
And I don't know how close it is to production and how close it is to print it. They may have already. I haven't seen, or I don't know. But what I was going to say is that if I look back at those early ones in my childhood that I remember, you know, it's that same classic argument. The print production value of the time was as good as they could do, and now you look at it, and they will produce something that won't just be spiritually uplifting if you read it. It will be spiritually uplifting if you look at it.
Yep.
I think that is where we are, where online and delivery and other things needs to move to.
So, okay, so now a shameless plug, although it doesn't really benefit me at all, that I actually started something called discoverjewish.art, which, for exactly the reason that you just said, is that I was tired of searching for crappy clip art to use in my Siddurim. I wanted real, beautiful artwork. And so I'm working with Joanne Fink, who's an amazing artist, and a number of other artists have joined in as well. And they all have, we've partnered with Design Bundles, which is an online way to get digital art. And so you can, if you go to discoverjewish.art, you can actually get really amazing artwork that you can use in if you're creating slide decks for services, if you're not using, a fixed siddur, really beautiful stuff. This is for Yizkor, Baruch Dayan Ahmed, Zichronam Livracha. Really nice stuff. As you mentioned, Dahlia or Daria? Dahlia. It's my daughter's name. I should know that. I came across this prayer from her, which is really beautiful. It's a prayer for taking your mask off. Right? I give thanks before you and to you for the compassion and healing, for putting an end to this plague, for the privilege of seeing human faces reemerging, and for appreciating this expansive and beautiful earth as we stride forward. Let us listen to the winds of change and adhere to them. That's nice. Let us listen to the winds of Nakshiv l'ruchot hashiyuni v'nid bakban, and listen to them. Let us promise to preserve our world and each other with the removal of the mask. Let us increase the good and blessing around us, and may it be speedily said all over the world, V'hamagifane etzara, and the plague ceased. That was written in part, at least, by Rabbi Dahlia Marks. And that's you can find that right on the Open Siddur project. That's fantastic. Cool.
She will be super glad we've said that. She's
beautiful.
Wonderful. She's wonderful. I've listened and live streamed Dahlia a number of times, and just every single time it's fascinating. It's one of those people where, as we were talking about earlier, she packs in 3 hours of a lecture into an hour, and you're like eventually having to say stop.
Wow.
We've hit the time. But she's packed in tons and tons and tons. But
that's fantastic.
She's great. Absolutely
cool.
great.
Cool. So. All right. Speaking of hitting the time, I think it's our time because we have about 55 minutes before Hybrid Ministries starts tonight. For those of you who want to join us, you can search on Facebook for Hybrid Ministries. And tomorrow, I won't be there, but I don't know, Leo might be there, but office hours is tomorrow. And then, and we are talking about starting up Synagogue Tech again. That it's now after the holidays.
I think until we got past the what every year the festivals that the high holy days feel they sort of creep up on you. I just felt this one happened about 10 minutes after last year.
Too fast. Too fast.
And I know the argument always is, well, it's always early, it's always late, but this one it just felt like it was about. There weren't many weeks in between. So no, we're gonna be restarting it. Mainly because we've also now got a lot more. We know where we're now. A lot of people on that. There's a lot of synagogues who are starting the journey that people started a year ago. There are the synagogues that started a year ago that are now moving to the next level. So it's like you're seeing the progression in the classrooms, and you're seeing new challenges. And I think that's it, because you put equipment in, or you do this, or you change how you're going to do, those that have been using Zoom for a long time are now looking at how do they improve Zoom. Those that didn't really start on Zoom are now looking to join, and those that have been doing it for even longer are now looking at different ways. So I think it's a great time to be starting that, to try and help, and between us try and see how can everybody else learn from what else others are doing, what's some good ideas, what's some different ways of doing things, what works, and just as importantly in everything is what really didn't work. Yeah, I think knowing what really didn't work actually also helps. Yeah, because otherwise everybody making the same mistake isn't good for anybody. So that's
I was
why
talking.
we're restarting.
Yeah, I'm in the midst of hiring an administrative assistant, and I was talking with her today, and I said that one of the things that I'm looking for is someone who's willing to make really big mistakes and do them really fast, and then try something different. Right? We're gonna blow it. We're gonna screw it up. Let's do it. Let's do it quickly. Fail fast, and then let's try something new. Awesome.
Great.
All right,
great.
Leo, nice talking with you. I will see you
as always
later tonight. All right, my friend.
As always.
Bye, everyone.
Brilliant.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.